Hey everybody, welcome back to Codys Workshop. I'm Cody, and this is my workshop. So today we are in part 3 of the Kylo Ren Lightsaber build. In front of me, I have a styrofoam block with some wooden skewer sticks on there, and attached to them are all the parts for the Kylo Ren Lightsaber that I've printed out, sanded, and have gotten prepped and ready to paint. So the reason I stuck these on sticks is to allow me to have better control over the painting process. This way I don't have to worry about getting my fingers in the way of the paint, which could get paint on my hands or block some of the surface area of these parts. Especially on these smaller parts, this is something you need to do. I got this method from watching some videos on people assembling models and kits. This is what they kind of do to get all the little small parts individually painted, and so I decided to adapt it to my own needs. Now, speaking of the painting process, instead of doing something where I'd use a brush and using acrylic paint or oil paints, those leave very large layers. Since I painstakingly designed all the detail into each one of these parts, it would be a shame to cover that detail up. So I'm going with a method known as airbrushing. Now, airbrushing releases a vaporized cloud of paint that is very thin and won't really obscure much of the detail. So this way I can get nice colorized parts and still have nearly all of the original detail left in there. I think this is probably the best method for doing something of the sort. As you'll see, I have a 1/6 air compressor with a built-on tank. This will allow me to build the air up, and then it'll actually turn the motor off so it won't be super loud continuously while I'm painting, because that'd get really annoying. I've got a few colors here, and because the lightsaber for Kylo Ren really doesn't have many colors to it, I've only need to grab a few. And for any colors that don't really fall in this little spectrum, I have other paints, but I'll also mix and kind of combine some of the paints to get a better, more exact color. And so this should work out pretty perfectly. Now, painting is always my favorite part in doing projects, because you can take a bad project and paint it very well, and the end result looks 10 times better. Now that does work both ways, meaning that if you do a lousy job painting it, you will ruin the project. So in this sense, we have a very good start. Each one of these pieces looks amazing. When they're all put together, it looks phenomenal. So in theory, if I paint it really, really well, this thing is going to look pretty awesome, at least by my standards. So that's really it. Since I am painting in an apartment, I found at Walmart something known as a tri-fold project board, which is what you'd see kids using at a science fair. I cut that in half, and I'm going to line my table with it and kind of create a nice little painting booth. So other than that, I think we're good to go. Let's get started painting. Alright, so I've got the base coats done on each of the parts. Every part received 2 coats of paint, and it's looking pretty good. I'm not sure how well you can see this because of the lighting. It's not really made to shine up there. It's all down here. So at this stage, it doesn't look great. It's just your base coats. But I want to go in now and do some really nice detail painting work. And this will be adding textures to it and making it look a little bit more metal. Going in and painting by hand these really small detail, like the wiring and the little metal bits in there. Got to do all that by hand and just make it look really good. So we'll do the next stage of painting, and I'll be using a variety of tools. This is just some miscellaneous brushes. I've got these really awesome things. These are little foam pads on top of a stick. Got these at Walmart for about $1. A few different sizes of those. Some blending pads. They're kind of coarse on one side and foam on the other. You guys have probably seen these. These are, not really sure what you call these things. Just foam brushes, really. Brought out some more paints, and these are just acrylic paints. So if you ever go to Walmart, they have these for 80 cents to $1.50. And I really, really like these paints because they're acrylic based, they're cheap, they come out looking really nice, and they last forever. So I have a box of probably about 100 different colors. So anytime I need a color for a paint, I just go in my box and I pull something out. So at this point, I'm going to begin doing the detail work. I'm going to try and bring the camera, maybe get it placed about right here so you guys can get a good shot of what I'm about to do. Because I know the camera's been kind of far away for the painting thus far. And that's because when you're dealing with like an airbrush, you get a lot of overspray, and it's not something I would want to spray into the lens because then it would just, I wouldn't be able to get that paint off. So I've had to keep the camera kind of further away. So I'm sorry if you guys couldn't see a lot of the, kind of like the detail work I did with the paintbrush. Not that it was even really that detailed since it was just doing a base coat, not a whole lot to it. All right, so anyways, let's begin the next stage and the fun part of painting. I'll bring you guys in now. Alright everybody, so we are now done with the painting. I've got all the parts detailed and ready to go. So before we go in this episode and begin the next part where we'll assemble the whole thing, I just want to quickly explain some of the stuff that I did that you may not have caught on the camera. So let's just take a look at the part. And if I can get it in the light, whoops, broke my lamp, kind of, whatever. So you can see there's some silvering on the edges here. All I did was take the sponge, take thin amounts of it, and just kind of brush the silver paint on. And it gives this really nice chroming look. More or less, it's almost as if the metal, whatever this thing is made out of, has a black coat on it, and then underneath it's just your normal like iron, steel kind of metal. And so the silver edges are where it's like rubbed away. So on this one, I have the silver kind of peeking through on these edges up here, but still nice and dark in the middle. And in some cases, it does run all the way down. And this gives it kind of the appearance that maybe like when he was putting it up, it rubbed here, or that like where you'd grab it, a lot of the pressure would be along here. And so that's why some of the paint would be rubbed off. Again, this is just assumptions based on pretty much nothing since the movie didn't go into detail on this. Now this part I'm very proud of. I love the detail on this and the way it looks. So you can see I took the paint and I really got a hold of these edges here. Same with the top lip of where the lightsaber appears. I really wanted to remove the metal around that. It gives it so much more detail, even though it's not a hard thing to do. There is more silvering here and here, but because it's on the side, I went ahead and did a little bit more silvering along the path here and here. And of course I filled in some of these larger spots and the wires, those blue ones that run through. Those are just basic acrylic paint. Not a whole lot to it, but it really brings out the model and looks pretty good if I do say so myself. Now this is something I'm particularly proud of. So these are the end caps. They come out on the two sides. That's where your mini lightsabers appear. Because of the heat and because of the excess length that I had, I figured I'd do kind of a heat discoloration on the metal. And from what I was able to find in research and Google pictures and stuff, it goes from like a gold to an orange to a blue, orange back to silver. And so I tried to replicate that on these little parts here. So you can get the little blue ring and then it starts going back to gold. And I really like the way it came out. And these pieces right here, I mean, they almost look metal. It's hard to get a good detailed shot of this. But with how shiny they are and the texture on this thing, if you didn't know better, like it would look completely metal. So honestly, if you're thinking about doing something like this, what I would almost recommend doing is giving it 2 or 3 paint coats of that silver. Get nice and thick on there. And then go back over and add your black on top of that. That way the underneath sides of here will look much more of a true metal. But it still looks really good. I didn't know this stuff going into it because I've never really used an airbrush for painting models yet. I just recently got it, so this is my first real time using it. And I've never painted 3D parts, so this is all just kind of a trial run, first kind of experience with it. So it may not be the best, but I think it came out really nice. So anyways guys, that's about it. In the next video we're going to assemble the whole thing. We'll glue it together, stick it all up, and we'll have a completed lightsaber. And you can just kind of see some of the other parts here. I did paint the wire just a plain red, no big deal. But that is it guys. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. We're going to finish up this lightsaber and be starting the next project, which is pretty cool. So I would recommend staying tuned for that. But anyways, so thanks guys for watching. I'll see you next time.